So the first thing you do is you start thinking about the film, which usually gets you up early in the morning or in the middle of the night as ideas start flooding into your head. Then of course you go downstairs and get your favorite hot drink. So that you can sip on it and ponder the project a little bit more. So the next thing to do is lock yourself in the studio. So we've been thinking about the film. If this was a feature film, we would have already had what they call a spotting session with the director. And that's where you go through the entire film with the director and you determine which points in the film they want to have music scored. Each one of those points along the way in the film are called cues. And so you will have X amount of cues, maybe 50 cues or something like that if it's a feature film. Now, this one that I'm demonstrating here is just a short film that was on HitRecord called Pottstown. So what I've done so far is loaded Pottstown into my favorite DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, and I am going to now construct what they call a tempo map. I'm going to play the film, I'm going to listen to the narration, and I'm going to try to determine a tempo, a feel for the film. A lot of times the director's cuts and edit points within the video, that helps to determine the feel as well. So what I do is I turn on the film, and I have my monitor here that I use for film scoring.
I was born here, this post-industrial town.
And I usually just start snapping my fingers until I find a click that seems to complement and work with what I'm hearing and seeing
this mixing pot of culture, old and the young, high and low class, black and white, the religious uptight, all sharing this.
Now this one's kind of easy because he's walking.
I was born
so
here.
I can just use his steps, his footfalls as
I fell in
my
love
tempo.
Here. I became a fool here. I learned here. From the parks to the...
So I've determined that the tempo map for this film can be consistent from beginning to end, and 81 beats per minute seems to work really well. So now I'll go ahead and add a click track in my DAW at 81 beats per minute, turn it on, watch the film through, and see if everything works well.
Bitter faces, the broken
so as I can see,
buildings,
everything is lining up well. The footfalls,
19th century architecture, blending with ghetto mythology, the teachers and the cops keeping a close eye on the
transitions, they're all working well with this tempo.
My parents raised me here.
All right, so I have my tempo map. I'm ready to start writing music. I'm thinking maybe some kind of guitar would to work best to start with. I almost get the feel of a Clint Eastwood movie for some reason.
I was born here, this post-industrial town, from East End worn down, all the strip
So this is what I've written first, is the guitar part.
Now a fight to repair. I went to school here, this mixing pot of culture, old and the young, high and low class, black and white, the religious.
So sometimes I'll write a temp piano part, and then I'll build my instrumentation on the temp piano part. But in this case, the guitar worked out well.
I learned.
And so I'm going to start filling it out. Usually I'll start with either a kick drum or bass or something, trying to get some bottom end added to it.
19th century architecture. I was bare.
So now we've got a bottom end.
Now a fight to repair.
Now we can add some more rhythmical things. And also we can add instrumentation that emphasize specific spots in the film. Maybe changes in the scene, or maybe when the character does something significant that requires some kind of attention to be drawn to it.
I learned here.
All right, so let's listen to the finished track here.
I was born here, this post-industrial town, from East End worn down, all the strip malls bare, decades unaware, now a fight to repair. I went to school here, this mixing pot of culture, old and the young, high and low class, black and white, the religious uptight, all sharing this millennia blight. I was born here, my son was born here, I fell in love here, I became a fool here, I learned here. From the parks to the churches, the mean, bitter faces, the broken industrial buildings trying to occupy blank spaces, 19th century architecture blending with ghetto mythology, the teachers and the cops keeping a close eye on the pawn shops. My parents raised me here when community was alive, along with 20,000 others, all trying to survive. But now our bubble is enclosed by fear and ignorance imposed. From the Hill School through Manatoni Creek, all these lives so unique, yet saddened by poverty so bleak. We can beat this, our energy still shines. Magnify our tiny light, we can come together despite years of abuse. We have the power to produce a town worth being born in, a town worth falling in love in, a town worth being home.
And that's what we do in film scoring.